Welcome into the roundtable. I'm Brad Wakai. That is Tyson Gentry. We have a big NFL show to get to today, recapping all of the games. Quick thoughts on that as we get into it. That's going to be later in the show. But first, Tyson, we're going to jump right into it. Thursday night football reaction. I'm sorry, I have everything all screwed up. Monday night football
You
reaction.
kept saying Thursday in
why
the
we
pre-show, and I was like, "Are we going all the way back to that whatever that was on Thursday?"
this was much more explosive. Obviously, 30-29 Chiefs beat the Raiders. But honestly, just as many dumb decisions in this game as we saw on Thursday Night Football. But at least this was entertaining.
It always is when these two play each other, and it was just classic Raiders. I don't care if it's Oakland, Vegas, doesn't matter who the coach is, they're going to find a way to fuck this thing up. Devontae Adams doesn't get 2 feet down or catch the ball cleanly on the most important pass of the season. That's just a microcosm of the Raiders so far.
And here's the other thing that's frustrating to me is that Devontae Adams has a huge game. 3 receptions, 124 yards, 2 touchdowns. Why do you not target him more? Like, you spend all this draft capital to go get the best receiver in the NFL on your team. You need to target him. Like, he needs to be a focal point of this offense, not an afterthought. Not I'm just another guy out there. Darren Waller goes down. It should be okay immediately. We're going to look at Devontae Adams and then go to somebody else. Mac Hollins getting targeted more. Like, it was crazy to me.
It's also just a classic McDaniels thing, to me at least, just plugging guys in, plug and play. You're just cogs in the machine, and we see it. Like Mac Hollins failed or flamed out of Philadelphia, flamed out of Miami, and now he's the best number 2 receiver that you guys can field. He's a good field stretcher. If he catches that pass at the beginning of the game, maybe we start out 24-0 and we're having a different conversation right now. It's just the fact that that's the level of talent that you're kind of left with, and then you're scheming plays for it's what was it, 3rd and 3, and they run 2 go routes, one on each side. Both guys are double covered, and Derek Carr throws it to Mac Hollins.
I don't
Bad.
understand.
Bad.
It's like
2 receiver routes too, by the way, Brad. 2 receiver routes almost the entire last drive. I know Foster Moreau's out, Darren Waller's not playing. Josh Jacobs had a good game catching the ball out of the backfield. I understand he needs to be in there to pass block with them bringing a blitz. But if you know they're going to bring a blitz and you're going to leave him in to pass block, then what are we doing running 2 deep posts?
that's what I don't understand. Like, where did Devontae Adams dominate last year on the Packers? Middle of the field, slant route, in routes. Like, he's not Randy Moss, McDaniels. Quit just running him on goes. He wins off the line of scrimmage by getting inside. And if you watch him, and Aikman kept saying it, well, the jam. It's because he's jamming and having to on a go route. If he's trying to pick and choose whether it's an out route or in route, the corner has no chance. But instead, since Devontae Adams has to run a straight line forward, the corner is going to be able to jam him a bit. Like, you have to understand the strengths of your players, and that's what I think is missing on this Raiders team. In crucial moments, they crumble again. And it's just over and over and over. They shoot themselves in the foot. Now, this team, again, goes to 1-4. They can't get out of their own way. And that's just the story of the Raiders. And like you said, it doesn't matter if they're in Vegas, in Oakland, LA, whatever it is. The Raiders find a way to lose football games. And we saw it again in primetime when this could have been a statement win for them.
They have less wins than the Bears, than the Giants, than the Seahawks, than the Cowboys with Cooper Rush,
Falcons,
Broncos.
same wins, less and more losses, than the Texans.
Yeah, they're bottom of the barrel right now, brother. And Green Bay is like, thank you. I mean, we would love to have him right now so Randall Cobb doesn't get 13 targets, but that's another discussion.
And on the flip side, Chiefs dazzle again on primetime. And it's something that we're accustomed to, right? Mahomes, Kelsey putting on a show, and it looked rough in the first half, right? I mean, they were 0 for 3, started the game off on 3rd down, but they find a way to figure this thing out, right? That's what happens when you have a Hall of Fame coach and a future Hall of Fame quarterback in Patrick Mahomes. I think they may have been looking a little bit ahead to the Bills game next week. Then they started getting punched in the mouth. That roughing the passer insanity that took place, I think that fired him up. Then all of a sudden, it was like, hey, this is a home game at home on primetime. And they're like, we need to win these games. And they just flipped the switch, and they eventually just waited for the Raiders to collapse. And they do what they always do, man. They just put on a show.
Did you ever once in this game have a doubt that the Chiefs are going to win it?
I did for a bit. I actually thought for some weird reason that the Raiders were actually going to go do something on that last drive. But then again, I remember this is Derek Carr. I get his whole comeback stats. That's also because he's in a lot of close games because he doesn't have that thing. I don't know that just helps his teams win
0-4 in
games.
one-score games this year.
And that's a flip from last year when they were great in one-score games. But I mean, to your point, it felt like the Chiefs were just one play away from blowing this thing wide open at the entire time. This game was taking place.
And it's fun to watch the offense right now with a different cast of characters. Obviously, Juju Smith-Schuster had one of his worst games as a Chief to this point. He's a little banged up, but had a drop, had some questionable routes, I suppose. But Travis Kelce, like you mentioned, 4 touchdowns. It was a Jerick McKinnon game, which was pretty funny to watch. But it was all preseason. They don't have Tyreek Hill. What's this offense going to look like? What are they going to do? Well, we'll just put Mecole Hardman in those wide receiver screens, and yeah, he doesn't bust off 60-yarders like at the rate that Tyreek did, but we'll take our 15. They're just going to grind the game out and beat people, man. To this point, I know we're Eagles fans. They're 5-0. The Bills are killing people, except for when they don't. The Chiefs, to me, look to be the most scary team in the NFL. They look the scary. When I was watching that game tonight, the whole time I was thinking the flip was going to be switched. And that wasn't a Tyreek Hill thing. That's a Patrick Mahomes thing. It is.
Yeah, and when you have 15 on your team, man, you're going to be a scary team no matter what. I think he's the best quarterback in the NFL. He just does things that really nobody else in the league can do with his arm, with just the pocket mobility. And I love Josh Allen. He's my number 2 in this league. Just Mahomes has that it, man. Like, he's just got something. It just, whenever you need something, you're like, oh, Mahomes. Like, at the end of the first half, I mean, there's 17 seconds to go down and get a field goal.
He's got the anti-Derek Carr.
He's got the anti-Derek Carr. And again, we got it on primetime. Mahomes dominates the Raiders, and they come out with one they probably shouldn't have won in this one, but that's what they do. They win games that they probably shouldn't, and the other times they just crush you. Tyson, we have our first coach fired in the NFL. Now, do you want to take a victory lap now, or do you want to take it whenever, like for the rest of the season? I don't know, because you called this.
Look, normally – okay, just want to point out, I think I'm 4-0 on my last 4 coach firing calls, and I have Nathaniel Hackett's on the chopping block, man. I told you Christmas, so we'll see. But I was feeling bad that the guy got fired. And then I saw that he gets $834,000 a month until his contract's paid off. I mean, what a finesse job. And now he's going to go pick whatever college football job he wants. His agent already came out and said, oh, there's no jobs he likes available right now. Auburn's not open. There's going to be some that open up, and Matt Rule is going to be at the top of every single list. But the dude just was not cut out for the NFL.
Yeah, didn't work out. And for those of you who don't know, we're talking about Matt Rule. The Carolina Panthers fired him after their loss to the San Francisco 49ers. He was 11-27 in 3 seasons as a head coach of the Panthers. He has 4 more years left on the 7-year contract that he signed to start, which was $60+ million, and he's going to get all of that, like Tyson alluded to, $835K per month for the next 4 years. So that's something there. I think he's 1-17 when the other team scores over 17 points. So just not good stats. You don't have to get through all of them. If you're curious, go Google Matt Rule record, anything of that sort. I'm sure you probably saw it on social media if you're on it. But I mean, it really was bad. Now they're talking about a yard sale, with the Panthers after losing to the Niners 37-15.
The yard sale's hilarious because they just re-signed DJ Moore. So to trade him now would be to pay him $40 million for half of a season of work because you have to eat a $15 million dead cap hit no matter what if you get rid of him this year. So that's pretty much off the table. Christian McCaffrey, we'll see. All the teams that are rumored, like the Bills, I don't know how they pull that off salary cap-wise. They're already looking to extend some guys going into the offseason, and they're actually over the cap for next year right now. There's nobody to sell off. And you know what they did is they go out and they fire the defensive coordinator. Defense has been middle of the road to bad. And obviously, the team's middle of the road to bad. Ben McAdoo still calls the plays.
Yep.
Doesn't matter. Steve Wilkes, whoever. We are trying to get CJ Stroud. That is what we're doing. We want Bryce Young. We want one of these guys. And we're getting to the bottom of this thing as fast as we can.
Yep, like you said, Steve Wilkes taking over. He was a previous head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. That tenure didn't go well. He was a one-and-done coach there.
But they got the number 1 pick.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Baker Mayfield, high ankle sprain. He looks like he's going to miss next week against the Rams. PJ Walker slated to be the quarterback next week. So just going from bad to worse there in Carolina, as they have fired the coach, and the first coach of the year being fired is Matt Rule in season after week 5. All right, Tyson, let's get to the roundtable kind of check around the league. And we got to start with Cooper Rush, man. He just keeps on rolling. Cowboys 4-1, 4-0 under Cooper Rush this season as they kind of embarrassed the Rams 22-10. Now, Rush wasn't great, but the defense was awesome for the Cowboys, and they just continue to roll under Cooper Rush with that game management type of mode that he's in right now.
So this is one of the wildest takes I think I've come up with in my head. The Cowboys, I don't think, would be 4-1 right now with Dak Prescott, but it's not because Cooper Rush is playing well. It's the playbook is so much more simplified with him at the helm. It's almost like Kellen Moore gets to not get it in his own way, gets to actually call the game the way that the game should be called. And I know that when you have Dak, there's a temptation to kind of air that thing out because the dude is good. And when you have Cooper Rush and he throws for 10 completions and 100 yards and you win by 9 over the defending Super Bowl champs, it makes life a lot easier. It's simple. And when you get the ball in the hands of your playmakers, Tony Pollard has been having a bit of a resurgence from the early parts of the season. There's just something going on in Dallas, and it all starts with the defense, and it's fun. That is a quarterback controversy when in reality, like, nobody's looking at the stats. It's like, oh, the guy's 5-0 as a starter for the Cowboys. Like, he throws for 120 yards a game.
It feels like the Tim Tebow thing a little bit. Man, the guy's just winning. It's like, no, that defense is awesome. And as Michael Irvin would say, is finger licking good. That defensive line, man. I mean, they just dominate. I think on the flip side, for the Rams, I think they're in big trouble. You know, we can't touch on that. I mean, listen, Sean McVay just came out and said, hey, Stafford's doing everything he can for this team. Now, he hasn't been great, but I mean, he's getting his ass kicked because his O-line sucks, which we previewed in the beginning of the season. We thought that may be an issue for him. The problem is, I don't think McVay's doing a good enough job of scheming other guys open. Like, we get Cooper Kupp is amazing, but you got to have more than just one guy in this modern day NFL to throw the ball to, man. Like, this isn't Lynn Stallworth, you know, for the Steelers back in the day. We have one guy and he can just go get one. You got to scheme your other guys open. I think Allen Robinson's being underutilized. Like, he's just not a factor in this offense. I think that has more to do with scheme than he's being bad. I mean, he was playing as well as he could last year in that Bears roster. You're telling me that's coming to Matthew Stafford's on the upgrade over what he did last year? I just think there is major, major alarms going off in that locker. They got to figure it out fast.
He's a $60 million paperweight, and they're not physical. That's what the Rams do well, and what they do well when they win games is they out-physical teams, and they don't have an ounce of that in them this year.
Eagles stay unbeaten, move to 5-0 as they beat the Cardinals 20-17. Missed field goal at the end of the game for the Cardinals as Kyler Murray, a little snafu at the end here, sliding before the first down marker. But listen, man, I mean, the Eagles, I said it on Friday, or our Friday pod, I thought this may be a look-ahead spot for him here. If you could do that when a look-ahead spot and still continue to stay undefeated on the road, you're a good football team. I think the Eagles proved that in this one.
It was good to see as a fan, obviously, to get an ugly win. That's something that every team needs to go through before you reach the playoffs. There were a certain amount of times in this game. First of all, worst TJ Edwards game he's ever had, or had so far this season. He was just getting eaten alive in the middle of the field with Kyler Murray throwing the ball. Jalen Hurts had a couple 2018, 2019, even 2020 moments in this game. Looked like the dude at Oklahoma a couple times. But he ended up getting it right, and the Eagles ran 17 quarterback sneaks, all for conversions.
And that's what they do. And, I mean, for the Cardinals, just once again, just not being able to piece everything together. And this was an opportunity they had coming off of a victory against the Panthers, albeit, to come home, make a statement, and beat an undefeated team and the team with the best record in the NFL. And they just couldn't do it because that's kind of the MO with Cliff and Kyler. When the going gets tough, they do not get going. I mean, they shut down. And I think there is a rift between the two now. Again, remember, Kingsbury was brought in to help Kyler Murray transition to the NFL. Feels like Kyler Murray thinks he's better than Cliff. Maybe that's with good reason, maybe not. Kyler's got all the talent in the world, man. He just hasn't figured it out. And I think it's a big ego thing going on with him. I'm not a huge fan. And just the Cardinals just continue to disappoint.
When we talk about good organizations versus bad organizations, a lot of the time I think people think it's contracts and things like that and what you do and how you conduct yourself. It manifests itself in different ways. So this weekend, Jake Elliott is out for the Philadelphia Eagles. They go pick up Cameron Dicker, who ends up making the game-winning field goal for them. The Cardinals also missing their starting kicker. They go out and get somebody who just lost a game for the Kansas City Chiefs. No more than, 2 weeks ago?
Yep.
That he lost that game. And then he loses the game again, right? Both these guys were available, and that's the one they chose. And that's the mistake that they have to live with. And it sounds nitpicky, but at the end of the year, if they miss the playoffs by a game because they picked up the wrong kicker off of waivers, that's on the GM. That's on the head coach. That's on everybody who signed that off. There are guys sitting out there right now who are a lot better kickers, at least haven't lost a game in the last 2 weeks.
Giants stunned the Packers over in London. I mean, this was an early kickoff. This was shocking me. I mean, Packers get off to a good start. Again, they're at 20-10 at half, seems to be rolling. And then the Giants come roaring back and win 27-22 to move to 4-1 on the season. Packers fall to 3-2. I think there's something bubbling under the surface in Green Bay. Rodgers is talking shit. Oh, we don't need to be thinking about losing. But apparently him and LaFleur are going at it a little bit. It's kind of, well, maybe LaFleur wasn't prepared. He was showing up late to meetings. He couldn't get the time right. Like, I think there's something going on under the surface there. Rodgers saying that he wants to be more aggressive. He wants to throw the ball down the field more. Okay, but dude, you gotta let it rip to other people than Randall Cobb. And it's the classic Rodgers thing, right? He doesn't trust these young guys yet. Well, you better start fucking trusting them because this is who's on your team. And if you want to make the playoffs and go for another run, you're going to have to start figuring it out with these guys.
Preseason, I was of the belief, I think you were too, that it was going to be a lot of Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. They're going to share the field. They're going to probably have the most touches on the offense. And that just hasn't happened. Like, we're 5 weeks into the season, and I think it's happened twice. That can't continue for the Packers to be good. On the flip side, Giants beating the Titans and the Packers, the 2-1 seeds in the playoffs last year. Daboll is your coach of the year to this point, and I don't think it's close.
Yeah, he's been awesome. And it's been a resurgent year from Saquon Barkley. 13 carries, 70 yards, an awesome touchdown. He took the game over.
If you
didn't
didn't think this was
half.
coming, you are an idiot. If you didn't the Saquon's washed, but no. Saquon wasn't on the field. Every time he plays, people are like, oh, he's the best. You just, quick memory, people forget.
That's what happens in the NFL, man. Not for long for a reason. And Daniel Jones with a good game. 21-27, 217, no touchdowns, no picks, and no fumbles. You'll take that out of Daniel Jones, especially in a duel with Aaron Rodgers when you come out on top. But that was a stunner, man. That I couldn't believe that happened when I was watching it early morning.
Giants are playing themselves out of a pretty decent draft spot here because, I mean, they're beating good teams, but through 5 games, this does not look like a Super Bowl contender to me.
Bills just absolutely dominate the Steelers. They went 38-3 at home. You knew the game was over on the third play of the game when they threw a 98-yard touchdown bomb to Gabe Davis, who did his best Randy Moss impersonation. 3 receptions, 171 yards, and 2 touchdowns. The Bills just dominated the Steelers.
They're just better. They're better than just about everybody. They're going to do this to a lot of people. We've been saying it. They've done it a handful of times already. Josh Allen threw for 1,000,000 yards. They don't take their foot off the gas. They're here to kill people. Shout out Kenny Pickett. Threw for a lot of yards.
They're also down for a lot.
It was just funny listening today. People, well, it was actually a good game from Kenny Pickett. He lost 38-3, bub.
Chargers Browns with just an insane ending. You talk about if you can be stupider than the other coach in this one. Brandon Staley goes for it on the plus side of his own territory on 4th and 1 instead of punting the ball away. This is after Jacoby Brissett threw it to a linebacker for no reason when they could have literally sat on the ball and kicked the game-winning field goal. So that was stupid. Staley tries to one-up them with stupidity by going for it. They don't convert. Browns have an opportunity to move it into a better field goal position for their kicker. They instead run go routes and anything to the middle of the field that's going to cause them to have to rush the ball at the end. They missed the game-winning field goal wide right at the end. And I'm sitting there stunned because I don't know who deserved to win that game just by sheer stupidity.
For my money, these are probably the 2 most overrated head coaches in the NFL at the moment. We were all on the Brandon Staley train preseason. Same mistakes as last year. He's just still doing dumb shit. And that's what we talked about before the year is that he's got a real way of stealing defeat from the jaws of victory. It's just stupid shit all the time. And then Kevin Stefanski is an offensive genius that can't run a 4-minute offense, 2-minute offense. It's not great.
Keenan Allen tweeting, "What the hell are we doing?" That's
How
not
about
good.
play, dude? I don't even get off Twitter, Keenan. I love Keenan, but come on.
Sure, but if he's tweeting that during the middle of the game, he's an active player. We're not talking about somebody who's retired. He's in the locker room. There may be some issues brewing in there in LA.
Another week with a hamstring injury for Keenan Allen this week then.
Vikings hang on and beat the Bears 29-22. Bears try to make a little comeback at it, but Vikings up 21-10 at half, scored 8 points in the second half. Really, with like 4 minutes to go, as they took their foot off the gas. Maybe a little fatigue coming back from London. We don't see that a lot. Normally we see London trips and you have a bye. Both Saints, which we'll get into, and the Vikings come back, played. Both Giants and Packers will play in week 6. So that's something to keep an eye on from an angle there. But I thought Justin Fields probably had one of his best days. 15-21, 208 with a touchdown, plus 8 carries, 47 yards. Could have gone for a little bit more. The penalty wasn't called back. But hey, Vikings get another win. They move to 4-1.
You called it. I mean, this was your potential NFC Championship appearance team. They haven't looked the part, but they keep getting wins. They just keep getting wins. And when you can throw it to Justin Jefferson 10 times for 130 yards or whatever in the first 3 quarters, it's not so bad.
It's not so bad. Good living for them. Good living. Lions get blanked by the Patriots, man. I mean, good injury report. Here come the Lions. Woo! And they lose 29-0 to the Patriots and their third-string quarterback, Bailey Zappi. Not a good performance for the defense. Ramondre Stevenson goes for 25 carries and 161 yards. Jacoby Myers got into the end zone. Tyson's happy about that. And Jared Goff, against Belichick's defense, again, just with a stinker, 229 yards, 1 interception, no touchdowns. It was just a battle around for the Lions.
And that might be who the Patriots end up being this season, is they're going to beat mediocre and bad quarterbacks just because that's Bill Belichick's scheme. That's what they're going to do. It's a little bit 2021 Eagles-ish, where like they look like shit sometimes, and then they might put 40 on somebody with a shutout on the number 1 scoring team in the NFL. Granted, a couple of those have been in domes versus doo-doo teams, but still counts, man. I mean, a 0 in an NFL game it's pretty rare.
I love Dan Campbell. The problem is, I think right now, is he loves all these guys that he hired. They just may not be good, the ex-players. And when you're the head coach, you got to make tough decisions.
Aaron Glenn's got to go, man.
He's got to go. Worst defense in the NFL.
The stuff on Hard Knocks was cool, and he seemed like a good guy, and everybody was cheering for him. But at a certain point, like, people can't keep scoring 40. Like, this is a trend now.
Exactly. And, it may have been promoted too soon to that position. Happens all the time. You got to get somebody in there who can call plays. I mean, what's Rob Ryan doing? He's a bad defensive coordinator too. I mean, who's even available? I'd have to take a peek and see who's even a good defensive
Call Vic Fangio,
coach.
Man.
Vic Fangio. Yeah, so I mean, you got to help something out here because it's bad up there in Detroit defensively. Speaking of bad defensive games, man, Seahawks Saints in a shootout, 39-32. If it's not for Taysom Hill, holy smokes, the Saints would have lost this game by 50. I mean, he had 4 touchdowns, 3 on the ground and a throwing touchdown. Geno Smith continues to look good, 16-25, 268, 3 touchdowns. This was an exciting game, though, man. It was wild.
I thought that this was going to be a game where the Saints defense kind of reminded people how good they are. And instead, maybe the Seahawks offense is just actually good. Like, maybe they're just actually able to put up yards. At the very least, they move the ball. DK Metcalf has kind of proven to be quarterback proof. And then there was even a random Tyler Lockett bomb that is a Seattle Seahawks staple where it was like, there's no way in hell he's going to get down there and catch this. And he comes out of nowhere. It was like, here we go again.
I think the Saints defense is just not very good this year, Tyson.
Yeah, I don't either.
They're old.
Yeah.
They can't cover.
It's bad.
It's bad. It's bad. Also, I had a thought on this. Taysom Hill, there's grown men in this league who are scared to tackle him. Like, dude, he just runs through people. Like, it's impressive to watch. Like, he gets that full head of steam, and people are like, I don't want any part of this.
And he's like 33. He's like 30 years old. Like, when you look at him, he's only been in the league for probably 5 to 7 years now, or at least relevant for probably 3 to 5 of those. Because obviously he comes from BYU, he's older. And you look at it and it's like, God damn, Taysom Hill's out here clowning dudes at 32 years old when he took a couple years off football younger in life. I mean, the dude's good. Like it's fun when they're rolling and he's got stuff going. It really sucks when they just kind of force him the ball when obviously it's not his day. But this was one of his days.
Highest scoring team of week 5 were the New York Jets, winning 40-17 over the Dolphins as Teddy Bridgewater gets a concussion on their first possession. Third string quarterback rookie Skylar Thompson has to come in. But I thought this was a good controlled victory for the Jets. They dominated on the ground. Breece Hall, your boy, 18 carries, 97 yards, a touchdown. Michael Carter had a couple as well. Like
Breece had
Zach
100
Wilson,
yards through the air too.
yeah, he had that big reception. I mean, Zach Wilson, 14-21, 210, no touchdowns, no picks, really controlled the game. That's what you want to help this guy along in his development. Because we talked about it. He has all the talent in the world. But if you ask him to do too much too early, like he's going to burn. And I think we saw that a lot with Zach Wilson early on. When he's able to hand the ball off and then on times when you need him to show off that talent, he can do it. And I think we saw that in this one.
I heard Bart Scott say today that Tyreek Hill had to take a shower to get the sauce off him. And I thought that was pretty good because Sauce Gardner looks like one of the best corners in the NFL already. I mean, the dude is just locking people up. And by the way, I mean, well, I guess I just want to go right into Miami. Skylar Thompson is an active NFL quarterback. He slung it a little bit at Kansas State, but he's 6'1". He's not like he's not a superb athlete. I think he ran like a 4.9 40. He didn't move crazy well in college. And you have Tua Tagovailoa, who obviously concussed right now, but there were injury concerns anyways. Teddy Bridgewater, who hasn't played a full healthy season since he was in high school. And this is like, no disrespect to Skylar Thompson, but like you kind of have to be more ready in these kind of situations. Like there's got to be some. What's Josh Johnson doing?
He got cut by the Broncos, I think.
I think he's
Early in the
practice
season.
squad.
He's available.
He's on somebody's practice squad.
Gotta be. Brady bailed out, question mark. That's kind of the rave, right? Bucks get up early, 21-0. They let the Falcons come back 15-21. Bucks go down. Brady gets sacked. They throw a roughing the passer that was very questionable. Bucks are able to go out and run out the clock and come away with a victory to go to 3-2 on the year. I know you said you haven't been that impressed with the Bucks. I thought they were going to be able to dominate and control this game, kind of cruise to a victory as they got up really early, and then they just took their foot off the gas. That's been the most concerning thing for me regarding the Bucks, not the blowout against the Chiefs. I think this game was when I was like, you got to show that you're still the Bucks in this one. And they just haven't been able to do it. It's crazy to me.
The defense, who is like maybe the most talented from top to bottom in the NFL. I know you love them. That's your favorite group in the league. I mean, just got to be a little better. Just a little bit more intentional on not letting the Falcons back into the football game. The roughing the passer call sucked. In my honest opinion, what probably happens is that defense stiffens up and Marcus Mariota can't get in the end zone, but it's a fun hypothetical. The roughing the passer call was just horrible. It was just as bad as the one tonight, except for Chris Jones had the ball in his arm, so that's a little bit different. Just the NFL's got to fix this. Like, how is she supposed to tackle these guys?
And that's the thing too, right? I think there was an overreaction from the Tua head injury, right? When everybody's like, "Oh man, we got to protect these guys a little more too." We're playing flag football now. Like so at the end of the day, boys, this is professional tackle football.
And you're asking the 300-pound guys, all right? They got to be the ones to be nimble and get it. Like, hit them hard enough to knock them down, but don't you dare fall on. Like, are they just supposed to like? They got to be gymnasts. Like, what the fuck are we talking about?
And I think Troy Aikman said it tonight on that. He's like, "You want him to become invisible," like, which is funny. I thought that was a good line out of Troy. He couldn't believe what he was watching. That was both just, of course, horrendous roughing the passer calls in this one. I think you smiled on this one. Carson Wentz loses it late for the Commanders as they have 3 opportunities to get into the end zone on the 2-yard line of the Titans. Commanders dominate the game pretty much the entire day. I think Titans only got it into the Commanders' red zone 3 times and scored 3 touchdowns. Like it was, or maybe even over the half. I forget what the stat was on that, but other than that, Carson was pretty good, man. 25 of 38, 359, 2 bombs. But of course, in true Carson Wentz fashion, when you need him most, lost it at the end, throwing that interception on the goal line.
Yeah, this was like his magnum opus or something. Like this was the most prototypical Carson Wentz game. Diami Brown is out there catching 75-yard bombs, and he catches a 40-yard bomb, and they're perfect throws. And keeping them in the game, they're winning the game. Now it's time to go make a play. And before he threw the interception, he tried twice to give the game away before that, and the Titans didn't want it. There's something going on with this guy. But the bigger picture is Ron Rivera, what the hell are you talking about?
Oh,
The
boy.
difference between this team and the other teams in the division is quarterback. One team's starting Cooper. One team threw for 107 yards and beat the defending Super Bowl champs. Look in the mirror, dude. Cam Newton won an MVP. You went 15-1 in one of the healthiest seasons, one of the kind of most lucky seasons that we forget about, is them running through going 15-1, and that's what your reputation's built up. What happened to Riverboat Ron, dude? Like, what is this bullshit? Like, it's not even creative. You're going to blame Carson because you don't run a single – what's Carson Wentz do well in the red zone? Run a sprint out to the right, flood the right side of the field, let him pick between the levels. Instead, let's have him run the other way, flip his hips, reset, and then he has to throw a laser beam into the end zone to fit it into anybody's arms, and then it's his fault. Yeah, he could have made a better throw. He could have thrown it away. Hire somebody else, dude. Take some accountability.
The defense has been horrible. That he's a defensive guy too.
It's his thing.
And he hires his buddy Jack Del Rio, which it doesn't seem like anybody's getting along with him right now. I think there's major issues in that Commanders locker room. And the full quote, yeah, that's going to get the headlines. Like, what's the difference? Quarterback. He did say he thought Carson had a good week this week, and he's continued to progress and get better. But you've been in this league for a long time.
That's what I'm saying. It was just
that
so
quote
quick. When you watch the video, it's immediately out of his mouth, and then it's like, oh, I shouldn't have said that.
And you know how it's going to sound and how it's going to be played.
And your quarterback is notorious for being just the most mentally strong guy in the NFL.
That's his strong suit, right? The mentally strong Carson Wentz. Also, let's not forget Ron Rivera pounded the table and wanted to go get Carson Wentz.
Yeah,
I guess
you spent 2/3. You weren't bidding against yourself.
Titans continue to win. Vrabel, I think he's a really good coach, man. I don't know how they're 3-2 after what we saw first couple weeks.
Yeah, it doesn't make much sense, but they just do what they do better than anybody else in the NFL does what they do. For the most, like when the Titans play mediocre teams, they're going to impose their will on them.
Texans shocked the Jags. Not a good game for the Jaguars. Not a good game for Trevor Lawrence. 25 of 47, 286, 2 interceptions. Damian Harris just ran wild, 26 for 99 and a touchdown. I had a feeling this would happen with the Jaguars. They, I think, were crowned a little too quick. This is a 17-game season, and they had 2 good games against Indianapolis receiver and the Chargers, who lost every single person on their team.
They're playing Storm Norton, dude.
They're exactly. And when you play Storm Norton, you're going to look pretty good the majority of the time. This is what happens. Division games, right? Texans know how to play, and I get it. Lovie Smith and Doug Peterson, different coaches than what it was last year. But there's a familiarity organizationally with these teams here. They know what that visiting locker room is like. Texans just go down. I thought they pushed the Jaguars around, and quite honestly, just kicked their ass.
Yeah, 9 straight for them over Jacksonville. Damian Pierce, like you said, monster. But Brad, I was thinking about this weekend. When is the last time that Trevor Lawrence looked generational to you?
College.
Freshman year in Clemson. It's been since his freshman year at Clemson. Like, at a certain point, man, the NFL will chew you up and spit you out. Potential is only good for about – when you're Trevor Lawrence, you're the number 1 pick and you've looked decent to this point, he's probably got the entire first contract. But eventually, like, this thing either comes together or it doesn't, and it's looking closer and closer to, like, I know it's year 2 and year 1 was Urban, but there's just some mistakes that he's making that other guys – like, look at Zach Wilson this weekend, checking the ball down, making the right decision. He's the turnover king of the draft class. He was the bust. We all knew that. Right? And Trevor Lawrence comes in and completely does not look the part to me. I know that sentence structure was weird, but there's been some
something
throws
missing, right?
He's off. The timing is off, which I think is huge. But part of that got to be on him. Just has to be. On time, on target. Shout out Brian Ferreter.
All right, Sunday Night Football to wrap it up. Justin Tucker saves the Ravens. 19-17, last-second field goal by Justin Tucker to push the Ravens to 3-2 and really kind of take command in this division here. Lamar Jackson, off game. Joe Burrow, off game. Really sloppy football, I thought. Joe Mixon finally seemed to get his stride as a runner. 14 carries, 78 yards. Mark Andrews continues to dominate. But, I mean, other than that, what do you point to as a shining moment in this one for both teams?
I think the flight home for Cincinnati was probably pretty awkward. It was bad offense. Like, there's a certain point where, I mean, you texted me, you're like, I can't figure out what they're doing. And I said, there's nothing to figure out. It's chaos. But last year it was working when they were just running kind of whatever they wanted. And this year they're starting games trying to run whatever they want, and it's not working. And instead of pivoting off that or going to easy throws, they double down. And T. Higgins is out of the game. Get Jamar Chase open. We just talked about it with Devontae Adams. Why the fuck is this guy running among the sideline or along the at least like 4 or 5 yards to the sideline almost every single route that he runs? He's one of the best yards after catch guys in the NFL. Give him the ball in space. Marcus Peters is playing 9 yards off on some of these. That's an easy, quick check.
And it worked twice. Okay, let's go away from it. Like, run it until they stop it. Like, come on. Just simple concepts like that. But I do think Bengals have to get the run game going. If they do, that completely changes their offense. It looked like they started figuring some stuff out. So maybe that propels them to the next level. They do play the Saints next week. I think that's a big test for them, because if the Seahawks are going to throw all over that defense and you can't do it with Joe Burrow and these weapons, there is red alert in Cincinnati. Now, the final thing for me on this game regarding the Ravens, gutsy win, needed to do it on a division opponent. I'm worried about the Ravens a bit. I was really high on them coming in. It kind of like what we're talking about with other teams, just missing certain things. Ravens feel like they're just missing that one thing. I can't put my finger on it right now, but
it's a big
just
play
feels
threat.
like.
That's, to me, that's what it is. It's Rashad Bateman.
Like, when he's there, it's not like they're blowing teams out. You know, they're
no,
losing
but
at home.
They have to go.
Leads.
They have to go 15 plays when he's not in the game. Is what it feels like. When he's in the game, there's at least a threat that they can take something to the house, because he's done it a handful of times this year, and he's not nearly as reliable as the kind of wideout that they need. But that's one of the underrated things about Lamar Jackson to this point in his career is Hollywood Brown is a good wide receiver. We know that. But it's just been trash outside of Mark Andrews as far as the other pass catchers go. It was a budget Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce situation that they had going over there in Baltimore. But it just felt a little more dangerous. And I think J.K. Dobbins is still knocking the rust off. I actually like the fact that the Ravens were able to win one of these, because to this point in the season, they'd trailed for 17 seconds and they were 2-2. When they have the ball last and they only have to get inside the 50, they're feeling pretty good. You think the Ravens are winning that game 9 times out of 10.
Especially with Justin Tucker, once again, comes to the rescue for the Ravens. I mean, he's incredible. I think best kicker ever. I mean, he is amazing.
Yeah, he's something else, dude. Like, he's got to be, like, you don't even have to think best kicker ever. I mean, what are we talking about? It's not even close.
Well, Vinatieri has the big moments. That's the only thing, you know?
Yeah, but he also missed in a lot of big moments, so we don't ever talk about those. Justin Tucker doesn't miss.
Yeah.
Doesn't
he had that one, I will say, he had that one miss against the Patriots. That one. And everybody's like, he missed.
You can point that one out in his entire catalog, his whole career.
That's what it is. All right. Well, we appreciate you guys listening. As always, make sure to like, subscribe, and share. Instagram @_the_roundtable_pod. TikTok is the same. Twitter @TRT_pod. Tyson, we cashed out big on Jamar Chase. We cashed out. We lost tonight on Isaiah Pacheco and Andy Reid being an idiot from our eyes, not running him. Even though Edwards-Helaire averaged 2 yards per carry. But that means we're restarting. And that means it's good for you all out there. Get in our chalkboard. It's free to join. It's just an app. And we got it up to, what do we have it up to? $533 off our $25
entry. Over 25, yeah. And that was
We're
with missing one of the ones that we wanted to put down that also hit. Had some travel issues there, but yeah, I mean, we were rolling, and it's nice to get a loss because we went 10-0 in our last 10, and that's just you can't. That's just if you do that, man. I mean, we'd just be rich by the time we're 30 years old.
Yeah, so get into our chalkboard. Link is in the bio. Whether you're watching us on YouTube, listening to us on Spotify or Apple, it is free to join. It's just an app to download. Let's have some fun in there. Also, PSA, we are officially keeping the same schedule. I know initially we wanted a different one, but not anymore. We are coming out NFL recap on Tuesdays, college football preview Wednesdays, and then our NFL preview on Fridays. So that is our schedule going forward. If anything changes, we will keep you updated regarding that. Tyson has no more weddings to go to. I don't have any more weddings to go to. We are locked and loaded as we bunker down in the fall.
Everybody out there, tune into ESPN Plus this weekend. Number 3, Montana Grizzlies. Number 5, Sac State coming to Missoula. It's going to be a banger. It's going to be electric. I know nobody likes to watch the FCS, but there's some pros out here.
Cooper Cup. That's an example. All right, we appreciate you guys listening as always. Until next time, peace.